Legacy Precious Metals is the company that I trust to give you good and patient counsel for investing in your retirement. The Biden administration has caused a financial crisis, and they have no clue how to fix it. Oil prices have skyrocketed, and when oil prices go up, not only do your expenses go up, but the cost of transportation and shipping spikes, leading the prices of goods to rise. And we are already seeing record inflation. That's the last thing that we need. Our economy is in trouble, and you need to take steps to protect yourself. If all your money is tied up in stocks, bonds, and traditional markets, you may be vulnerable. So gold is one of the very best ways to protect your retirement. No matter what happens, you own your own gold. It's real, it's physical, and it's always been valuable since the dawn of time. Call Legacy Precious Metals today at 866-528-1903 or visit them online at legacypminvestments.com. That's legacypminvestments.com, where you can download the free investor's guide. You can also go to my Facebook page, Jenna Ellis. I am a public figure on Facebook, and I just posted yesterday a really great interview with the president of Legacy Precious Metals, who is discussing why you need to start your retirement account even if you're in your 20s or 30s. There is always a great time to protect your retirement and invest, just like you want to protect your health over the long term. So go to Legacy Precious Metals at legacypminvestments.com or call 866-528-1903.
As a constitutional law attorney, former senior legal advisor, and personal counsel to President Donald J. Trump, Jenna Ellis believes in the rule of law and the importance of integrity in our elections. And she's ready to tackle the big cultural and legal issues facing America. This is the Jenna Ellis Show. Here is your host, Jenna Ellis.
Well, happy October, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Jenna Ellis Show. I'm Jenna Ellis, and if you are a normal person, you are celebrating the fall and autumn season by pumpkin spice lattes, gearing up for Thanksgiving, doing all of the family things. But if you are, unfortunately, in the political world like me, October, of course, means October surprises. These are any political events that are orchestrated or apparently orchestrated in the month before an election in the hopes of affecting the outcome. So last night and yesterday, one of the biggest bombshells or October surprises so far, and we're only in the fourth day of October, came via the Daily Beast in an article against Herschel Walker, who, of course, is running for U.S. Senate as a Republican from the state of Georgia against Raphael Warnock. And the Daily Beast said that they have receipts and proof that Herschel Walker paid for an abortion back in 2009, and apparently even sent a get well note to his alleged ex-girlfriend, who he apparently also sent a check for the abortion. So, of course, this has sparked national outrage. It apparently prompted his son last night, who has campaigned very heavily for him to go on a Twitter rant and basically say that the family all encouraged Herschel not to run, but you're running anyway. And then Herschel Walker this morning tweeted, "I will always love my son." And he also responded to the Daily Beast and said that this is completely false, and he's going to be filing a lawsuit for defamation. So this, of course, is the big to-do in the political world today. And so I wanted to address it from a couple of different angles, because I think these types of October surprises are important to talk about from not only a political perspective, but also from a Christian good citizen perspective, because all of us, hopefully, will be voting in November. And if you happen to be listening from the state of Georgia, then you'll have an option, and you will have the choice between Herschel Walker, who says that he is pro-life and he intends to vote in the Senate with the cadre who are pro-life oriented in terms of policy, and he's conservative. And then there is Reverend Raphael Warnock, and I am snarkily putting that in air quotes, because this Democrat who is running against Herschel Walker for U.S. Senate, holds himself out as a Christian. And he says that he is a reverend, and yet he supports one of the most drastic anti-life policies of possibly, anyone in the country. And so he is a radical leftist. He will vote with the Democratic cadre in the U.S. Senate, and will certainly not uphold anything close to a Christian worldview in terms of his politics and policies. So how should we analyze this type of political event? I went, and the only thing that I've said so far on Twitter is that I would vote for today's Herschel Walker over today's Raphael Warnock. And I mean that sincerely. So when we are considering voting for an individual, we're not voting for someone and therefore condoning literally every single thing that they have ever done in their entire life. And we are putting a stamp of approval and saying they are like unto angels, and we are holding them up as the beacon of the citizen that we want everyone to emulate, right? They're the model of heroism in the United States. No, voting is always a closed universe situation where you have two, possibly more options in the general election. Sometimes, most of the time in primaries, you have a variety of choices. And it really comes down to who best will represent the values that you and I stand for as Christians in the United States of America, who will vote in the Senate context, or who will execute the executive office, whether that's president or governor, in the executive, and appoint judges, whether it's on the state level according to the judicial process in each state, which varies, or in the executive with the nomination of federal judges. So these are all very practical things. And unfortunately, the political apparatus in the United States has become so disgusting and so focused on the history of each individual, and so scrutinizing every single thing they have done or possibly done or ever done or have been alleged to do in their entire life. And this mainly comes from the Democrats. Yes, of course, Republicans do the same thing, and they cast shade and they say, look at the bad character of the Democrat opponent. It's all opposition research, but mainly the Democrats attempt to character assassinate their opponents because they know that Republicans, generally speaking, and certainly conservatives, do hold ourselves to a standard of having good moral character. We all aspire to do that. We believe in the measurable difference between right and wrong, good and evil. We have policy values that reflect that. Our parameters of our idea of government is to create a more perfect union and to make sure that we are protecting life, traditional marriage, the family. We are making sure that law enforcement actually enforces crime. I mean, some of these very idealistic concepts, but also some very basic things in government. And so the left attempts to do these types of things like they are to Herschel Walker because they think then they can get us to back off from supporting him, because their theory is if we can show or form public opinion, even if they don't have all the facts and have all the proof, if we can show that Herschel Walker did, in fact, pay for an abortion back in 2009, then you and I, as voters, can't support Herschel Walker because we say we're pro-life. And so supporting him would therefore render us absolute hypocrites, because we would be condoning a person who paid for an abortion while we claim to be pro-life, right? That's their entire point. That's their premise. And there are a couple of things that are wrong with that, because voting for Herschel Walker today doesn't at all mean that we need to condone what he may have done. Let's just, for sake of argument, let's say that that is in fact true, that he paid for an abortion. Well, of course, I'm not going to condone that. Of course, that is sinful. Of course, in some states, and hopefully in all states, that would be illegal soon. That's something that is now being contemplated by the state legislatures in the wake of the phenomenal Dobbs decision. But we can do more than what the left is trying to box us into. All right, well, 2022 is going to be a critical year for America. AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, along with their nearly 2 million members. The fight to stop out-of-control spending in the president's Build Back Better scheme is far from over, and Congress is plotting more legislation that could hurt our seniors. The midterm elections will be a battle for freedom versus socialism. Unlike liberal groups, AMAC is America's conservative, action-oriented 50-plus organization fighting hard every day here in Washington and across the nation for our seniors. So I'm urging you to choose AMAC now. You will receive all of the great membership benefits, including AMAC discounts on hotels, travels, and restaurants, and your membership will support your conservative values. So go to amac.us/Ellis. That's amac.us/ELLIS to become an AMAC member now. Legacy Precious Metals is the company that I trust to give you good and patient counsel for investing in your retirement. The Biden administration has caused a financial crisis, and they have no clue how to fix it. Oil prices have skyrocketed, and when oil prices go up, not only do your expenses go up, but the cost of transportation and shipping spikes, leading the prices of goods to rise. And we are already seeing record inflation. That's the last thing that we need. Our economy is in trouble, and you need to take steps to protect yourself. If all your money is tied up in stocks, bonds, and traditional markets, you may be vulnerable. So gold is one of the very best ways to protect your retirement. No matter what happens, you own your own gold. It's real, it's physical, and it's always been valuable since the dawn of time. Call Legacy Precious Metals today at 866-528-1903 or visit them online at legacypminvestments.com. That's legacypminvestments.com, where you can download the free investor's guide. You can also go to my Facebook page, Jenna Ellis. I am a public figure on Facebook, and I just posted yesterday a really great interview with the president of Legacy Precious Metals, who is discussing why you need to start your retirement account even if you're in your 20s or 30s. There is always a great time to protect your retirement and invest, just like you want to protect your health over the long term. So go to Legacy Precious Metals at legacypminvestments.com or call 866-528-1903. We do not have to accept their premise of our support for a particular candidate and allow them to define the argument on their terms. That's what they're hoping for. And they're hoping that we will be so embarrassed now to support someone like Herschel Walker because they can then judge us as absolute hypocrites because we will be condoning someone who allegedly paid for an abortion. But we need to push back on that premise and say, okay, the question is not, did Herschel Walker pay for an abortion in 2009? That's a question for his church. That's maybe a question for his family. That's certainly a question of public policy in the sense that we can contemplate instances where that might have been pushed onto a woman, by a man who doesn't want to have a child. I mean, all of those types of moral conversations. But in terms of the candidate Herschel Walker today, he says that he is pro-life, and I don't doubt that. He is endorsed by Donald Trump. Everything that he stands for is totally polar opposite and contrary to his Democrat opponent, that if Raphael Warnock wins, will go to the U.S. Senate and will continue to support absolutely abhorrent pro-abortion, anti-life policies. So it's actually more consistent for you and I, as Christians, as pro-life advocates, as public policy conservatives, as good citizens, as engaged voters, to say, I support Herschel Walker, not because of what he was alleged to do in his past, but because of what he will do in the United States Senate tomorrow and who he is today. I am voting so that he is able to cast a vote in the United States Senate, so that he is able to confirm pro-life judges, so that he is able to represent conservative Republican values in the U.S. Senate. That's all my vote is doing. And so these types of October surprises, we need to take a step back and look and say, what's the Christian perspective here? And there was no greater example than the 2016 election of Donald Trump, where, the big evangelicalism, kind of wrapped itself up in this fervor that was like, oh no, can we possibly support someone who has had 3 marriages, who's had affairs, who's allegedly done XYZ thing? And, and my response to that always was, okay, tell me something he's done while he's actually been a Republican and claimed to be a Christian, because everything you're alleging he did while he wasn't a Christian and a registered Democrat. And, guess what? People can change, right? So I also think it's really unfair to measure a man's worth based on something in their past, because, God knows I have been forgiven for a lot. I have made mistakes in my past. And, a lot of mistakes that I've made in my past, because guess what? The news has reported that on me, and they have tried to do the whole smear campaign. They've tried to do everything to undermine my credibility, to say that I'm a hypocrite, to say, oh my gosh, you supported someone other than Donald Trump originally in 2016. How could you possibly then, go and work for him, Jenna? Well, you know what? Opinions change. People get more information. We move through life, hopefully, as a country, creating a more perfect union, but also as Christians, being daily more conformed to the image of Christ. And you know what? If I can look back and say, back in 2009, or, whatever date you want to pick, whether that's Herschel Walker's 2009 or yours or mine, and I can say, I have grown in my faith. I am a better person in the Lord. I'm fully forgiven the moment I become saved, right? That's everything is covered in the blood of Christ. But we know that we are not perfect in terms of how we walk our Christian lives until ultimately we are in the presence of the Lord. So there is a consecration, but then there's a daily transformation. And that is fully part of Scripture. It's part of the Christian life. And in politics, if we as Christians allow Democrats to undermine our own theology when we are voting and when we're contemplating supporting someone, then that's actually more hypocritical of us than to support Herschel Walker. If I allowed the left biased activist media to tell me that I am somehow not credible, not valuable, not worthy, total hypocrite, whatever, because of mistakes that they point out in my past, and I say, oh my gosh, that far be it from me then to ever speak on politics, then I am actually denying the work of the Holy Spirit in my life. I actually said to CNN, and you can go and look this up, when, they had their huge, hit piece on me saying, we have posts and quotes from Jenna, saying that she didn't think that Trump's a Christian, before 2016, and calling out his behavior. And I thought, well, yeah, that's before I knew Donald Trump personally. And I told CNN in this piece, I responded, I said, thank you for showing how a person's opinion of someone else can change, and how with more information, I can then come to support someone based on the information that I now have, and also the person that I have come to know as an individual. And that's great. I fully own that. What else you got? And it's just not a big deal. But the left would love to have us accept their premise and then fight them on their premise, and somehow say, oh, well, I don't know how we answer that question about Herschel Walker, because, I'm pro-life, but I guess I can't support him now, and maybe I'll just abstain, and I don't know how to answer this. Well, no, Friends, we know how to answer this. We don't have to be put off or in any way surprised in October when they try to do the same thing that they've been trying to do for years and years and years. And again, 2016 was like the greatest example of this with President Trump, who I proudly voted for in 2016. A lot of people think that I only changed my mind when I started working for him. Totally not true. Again, people make a lot of assumptions. And if I cared what everyone thought about me or what, new thing I found out about myself by Googling myself, I would never have time to actually do the things that God has for me and to actually fulfill my calling, because I would be so concerned about preserving my reputation in front of people who don't care anyway and whose only focus is to destroy my credibility. But ultimately, they're trying to destroy us and our ability not only to speak truth into society, to live our Christian lives faithfully, but also to be good citizens and good stewards of this country with our vote. And so I would beg you to look at this example and to say, you know what, maybe Herschel Walker did that in 2009. And that is hideous. It's tragic. I hope that he has repented for that, if that is true. And I know that he is denying that. So I have no personal basis to say, yes or no to that. But even if that is true, the thing that I do know is that Herschel Walker will be a pro-life advocate in the United States Senate, where his opponent, Raphael Warnock, will be the worst pro-choice champion in the United States Senate. And so as a Christian, I am obligated to choose the candidate that will best serve in the capacity of the office that they're running for, and leave it at that. So, all of these October surprises, from a Christian perspective, we have to go back and actually frame the question properly and respond to it Christianly and biblically. And then we also have to look at the nature of politics, because this is just, it's so disgusting, and it's gotten so far beyond the pale that we can't even have elections anymore without this type of disgusting vitriol, just for the pretense of political power. And it's really damaging to this country. It's very damaging when we can't even have a reasoned discussion anymore because of the name calling, the vitriol, these October surprises. And, Justice Kavanaugh actually said it best when he was going through his entire ordeal of a confirmation. And I mean, I was there pretty much every step of the way with working at that point for Dr. Dobson, but also as a surrogate for the Department of Justice, and then also helping with the confirmation of Justice Kavanaugh. And, he said, I forget if it was at his investiture or later, but he said that, things like this, what he had just been through, and these personal attacks that want to just destroy and humiliate a person and get them so worn down, they step back from public life. He said, these types of things are why good men will be put off from serving in public office, something to that effect. And he's absolutely right, because when anyone these days, whether they run for office or they even, are like me, involved in politics, work for campaigns, work for Republican candidates, have, association with Trump world, that kind of thing, then we open ourselves up to all of these personal attacks. And my response to that has been, you know what, do your worst. You could find things about me, of course, that I have sinned in the past. I've made mistakes, whatever. Fine. It doesn't matter ultimately, because what matters is my standing in front of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And now, does it matter in terms of my testimony? Yes. And of course, with things that are in my past, I'll say, yeah, that was a mistake. Great. Move on. I've moved on. I've apologized to people in my life that I have either offended or sinned against. And that's the reconciliation process that's part of Matthew 18. It's great. right? And use this as a way to proclaim the gospel of Christ and to show the daily transformation instead of being so put off by all of this. And I hope that more Christians will engage in politics, not only in running for office or being involved in speaking out, but also with our vote. So if you live in Georgia, proudly support Herschel Walker. Proudly support the conservatives in your state, wherever you're listening from, that will be the best option. You don't have to love their entire platform, everything they do. You don't have to, condone them personally. You don't have to invite them over for lunch. But you do have to exercise your vote in a way that is most helpful to the cause of Christ by preserving and protecting the rights that he ordained and established and gave to us in this country that we are so blessed and privileged to live in because we're Americans and because our declaration requires our government to do that. So our government needs to be filled with people who understand that obligation. And in just the last few minutes I have here, I wanted to also pivot now and address, speaking of, absolute ridiculous character attacks and defamation and all of this. President Trump has sued CNN in a $475 million defamation lawsuit. You probably heard about this, that he filed a lawsuit that focuses, and I'm reading from the Breitbart piece, lawsuit focuses on the network's characterization of Trump as being a, quote, racist, Russian lackey, insurrectionist, and its persistent association of Trump to Adolf Hitler and Nazism. So Trump said in a statement released shortly after his attorneys filed the lawsuit, quote, "The time has come to hold CNN responsible and legally accountable for their willful deception and defamatory statements made about me, and both directly and indirectly, my strong, devoted, and patriotic supporters." So whether or not this lawsuit will actually be viable really depends on whether his attorneys can get over the forthcoming motion to dismiss that CNN will inevitably file saying, we have freedom of the press, this is protected under opinion in the First Amendment, blah, 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 right? So, of course, my perspective is that our jurisprudence needs to change in terms of New York Times versus Sullivan, because everybody knows that Trump is right. Everybody knows that CNN lies about him, that all of these statements characterizing him as a racist, an insurrectionist, a Russian lackey, their characterizations are totally false. They're not based on anything substantive. And yet, they persist in doing this because they're not actually held accountable legally, right? So everybody knows that Trump is right. And he files this lawsuit, and like he does with a lot of others, because not only is he, I think, trying to change jurisprudence in the sense of actually holding CNN accountable, but he's also making a public statement stronger than just PR, court of public opinion. He is actually filing a lawsuit to say, CNN, I know what you're doing, and I'm going to force you to try to defend yourself against all of these statements that clearly are false and defamatory and wrongful characterizations. Now, of course, everyone is entitled to their opinion of people, and calling him, a bad president or an idiot or, some of these things, those aren't provably false. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. You don't have to love President Trump, even if you're, CNN. You can absolutely hate him. But to actually call him terms that are provably false and use a news organization platform to be this biased in hopes of characterizing him and casting him in such a light that it affects the outcome of an election, those things I think should be contemplated within our jurisprudence. It has gotten so bad for so long. I mean, we are well past just, the days of yellow journalism. This is beyond the pale. And it really does need to stop. And it's not just, that CNN is going after Trump and I'm defending Trump because I love him. All of that is true. I love Trump and I, of course, support him. But I really think that the First Amendment and what it's designed to do does not cover a news organization that puts out provably false statements and then goes back later and says, well, those we couched as opinion because there was one sentence that could reasonably be characterized as an opinion statement in the piece. These things are just ridiculous. So I'm grateful to President Trump for suing CNN. I think he's absolutely right. Whether or not he actually gets a ruling in his favor remains to be seen. And I hope that eventually one of these cases makes its way up to the Supreme Court and the majority of justices can set aside the fact that this is Donald Trump and it's political and blah, 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 and actually look at the precedent value, the jurisprudence, and tailor a rule and fashion a rule according to the First Amendment that absolutely protects freedom of the press, but also protects people like President Trump who have been intentionally harassed, victimized, and defamed by these news organizations. So for our purposes here, though, as voters, we need to ignore all of the rhetoric. We need to look at the individual candidate, make the best decision, and as Christians, not worry about how the left frames the question, but tell them, I reject your premise. Here is why I am proudly voting for the candidate that will go to elected office and will use that office to champion the values that our American society stands for. I mean, maybe our whole society doesn't anymore, but according to the Declaration of Independence, according to the Constitution, limited principles of government and Christian principles. And I am very proud to support that candidate. MyPillow is having their biggest sheet sale of the year. You all have helped build MyPillow into the amazing company that it is today. Now, Mike Lindell, the inventor and CEO, wants to give back exclusively to you, his listeners. The Percale bed sheet set is available in a variety of colors and sizes, and they are all on sale. So, for example, the queen size is regularly priced at $89.98, but is now only $39.98 with our listener promo code Jenna, Jenna. So order now because when they're gone, they're gone. The Percale bed sheets are breathable and have a cool and crisp feel. These come with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so don't miss out on this incredible offer. There's a limited supply, so be sure to order now. You can call 1-800-564-8475 and use the promo code Jenna, or go to mypillow.com/Jenna. You can click on the radio listeners square and use the promo code Jenna. That's Jenna. Thank you so much to all of Mike Lindell's listeners and listeners of this podcast for making sure to support MyPillow and using our exclusive listener promo code Jenna. That's Jenna.